Morning, everyone. Welcome to Township of North Frontenac's council meeting for Friday, December the 13th. Begin with notice for recorded meetings. Please be advised, North Frontenac council meetings are recorded. By attending a public meeting of council, you are consenting to your image, voice, and comments being recorded. Members of council, staff, delegates, and attendees are advised that they may be subject to legal action if their actions result in inappropriate and or unacceptable behavior or comments. We'd also like to acknowledge our Indigenous brothers, sisters. We begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place of the first peoples and their ancestors who were entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the Indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the Township of North Frontenac is committed to working with Indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. The agenda approval, Tara?
Moved by Councilor Regent, seconded by Councilor Good. Be it resolved, the council approves the agenda for the regular meeting of council dated December 13th, 2024 as circulated.
Any comments? Seeing none, in favor? The motion is carried. Is there any disclosure of pecuniary interest and general nature thereof? Seeing none, we will retire to a closed meeting of council.
Moved by Councilor Regent, seconded by Councilor Good. Be it resolved, the council retires to closed session at 9:03 a.m. to adopt minutes of a closed meeting held November 22nd, 2024, and to discuss litigation or potential litigation affecting the municipality or a local board.
Any comments? In favor? Or no, in closed.
So Craig, because we're going into close, can I ask you to leave and then rejoin at 9:30? We will start the meeting back at 9:30.
We're going to return to the regular council. Sarah? Okay, we have just risen and from our closed meeting of council where we adopted the minutes of the November 22nd, 24 meeting, and we discussed potential litigation affecting municipality or a local board. So we have some presentations, and this is one section every now and then shows up, and I really enjoy doing it. So these are recognition awards, and like I said earlier, I really appreciate the opportunity to hand these out. So begin with Long Service Award for Antonio Runco, 15 years of faithful service. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to open this up. Like this. And turn around. Oh, have your picture taken with me because I'm sorry, that's just the way.
That's okay. We're here. Okay, here we go. We're doing right. Doing that one here. There. How's that?
Great. Wow. Perfect. Thank
There we go.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Thompson. 15 years.
Thank you, Gary. Thanks.
Randy Baker.
Not feeling well.
Dylan Bowles. No. And that's it. Okay, but we also have some counselors that have been with us a long time. And we'd like to give them a recognition as well. First counselor is Wayne Good, 20 years. That's 20 years of servicing Ward 1, right?
20 years.
20 years.
Township.
Oh, okay, exactly. Good answer. And we also have Counselor Hermer, who has 10 years of serving Ward 2 and the township. You have to smile pretty for the camera.
Really?
Thank you, everyone. Before I sit down, I also want to read out. We have some names that were given out to the fire department that'll be given out later. So I'd like to read them. This is all from the Calabar Fire Department. Mitchell Alcock, 15 years. Russell Gray, 10 years. John Knoll, 20 years. Jamie Miles, 10 years. Dwayne Tebow, 20 years. Kristen Warlick, 10 years. And then for 24, it'd be James Knoll, 15 years. Kevin Smart, 30 years. Wayne Speck, 10 years. And Casey Cuddy, 45 years. So thank you one and all for your service. We really appreciate it. We're going to take a few minutes because we have a cake in celebration. So we're going to break and for say 10 minutes, enjoy some cake, and that's the session's over. Okay. Thank you very much. Back, everyone. The next item on the agenda is a annual update for Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation, or FMSC. And I'm pleased to announce that we have Tyler Lalonde, the administrative coordinator for that organization, here with us today. And he'll be joined by Kevin Farrell, the new CAO of the County of Frontenac. Welcome, gentlemen. Please come on up. You have to use the mic. So.
Give me 1 minute. I just have to get the presentation back up. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, gentlemen, the floor is yours.
All right. Good morning, Mayor and Council. My name is Tyler Lalonde, and I am the Administrative Coordinator with the Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation. I'm here today just to provide you with a brief presentation, as we've been incorporated for just over a year now, just to provide you with an annual update. Yeah, so today I just would like to give a little bit of a background about the Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation, if you're not familiar, provide you with an update, and then as we approach the new year, of course, looking at next steps, and then at the end, I'll be more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. So the Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation, as in its name, is a municipal service corporation. A municipal service corporation is essentially a corporation whose shares are owned by one or more municipality and is overseen by a board of directors with regular reporting to the municipality. The Frontenac Municipal Service Corporation is made up of 5 shareholders, including the 4 townships, including North Frontenac and the county. The Frontenac Municipal Service Corporation was incorporated November 7th, 2023, to oversee the implementation and operation of communal water and wastewater services in Frontenac. This was driven by a housing project beginning in Verona and potential opportunities in Charlotte Lake and also on Wolf Island. If you're not familiar with communal services, these are innovative technologies and approaches to water and wastewater treatment for clusters of residences and businesses, especially suited to small communities in rural areas like Frontenac. They help bridge a gap of unmet needs between the limitations of installing separate well and septic on each lot, and then the financial impracticalities of building large centralized treatment facilities found in more densely populated areas. Prior to incorporation, a technical committee was established. The Technical Support Committee is responsible for the process of establishing standards and protocols for installations, and then also investigating various operational models and opportunities of communal servicing in the county. So now looking at exactly why are we doing this and why in Frontenac more specifically. When looking at economic growth in the county, there are two problems that are to be considered with the county and even just rural municipalities in general. And that is that there's a lack of municipal services. As I've mentioned, well and septic has been the only option for rural communities like Frontenac. These are fine, but they do limit development options such as different housing types and also opportunities for commercial spaces. Our solution is that communal services enable smaller lots to help increase the population density and strengthen the local economy. Rural communities are also more vulnerable to either being hollowed out or overtaken by urban sprawl. And as we know, Frontenac's entire identity is based on its rural roots, that it has its dense forest, its clear lakes, and its small villages and hamlets. And we want to see growth for the county, but we also want to keep Frontenac, Frontenac. And our solution with communal services is that it enables community development that better fits into the existing fabric of our villages and our hamlets, while also preserving the heritage and the natural environment. So now I'd like to provide you with a little bit of an update on what we've been able to accomplish in the past year. As I mentioned, we were incorporated in late 2023, and shortly after, the county planning team worked to amend the county's official plan to support the development and implementation of communal services in Frontenac. We then held our first inaugural meeting on January 15th, where we elected our president, Francis Smith, and our board chair, and then also our vice president, Mayor Litchie here. Early on, we identified that how lengthy and complex the approval process is for communal water and wastewater services. So a letter was written that commends the minister for leadership on environmental assessment reforms and suggests improvements to help streamline this approval process for communal projects. So this is ongoing. During this time, we also approved our 5-year budget with plans to be operational by 2026 as projects come on board. Moving along, we then passed bylaw number 1, which established our voting shares, general governance structure, and provided an overall management framework. Then we passed the asset transfer policy, which outlines the procedures and guidelines for transferring assets from the municipality to the Municipal Service Corporation. And then we started on a shareholders agreement, which essentially outlines the rights and responsibilities of the shareholders, including procedures for making decisions. And I will touch on this in my next steps as well. Marketing was also deemed a priority by the board at this time, as communal services is quite new to this region. And there's definitely an educational component around it. So we in-house started working on a marketing plan. We were able to identify our strategic goals and looking at our target audiences and building out our messaging as well. And then in July, we successfully signed a memorandum of understanding with the Eastern Ontario Regional Network. This is a really exciting partnership as they've secured funding from the Canada Mortgage Housing Corporation. And they'll be supporting us in Frontenac and also building a roadmap for other municipalities to create a municipal service corporation and adopt the communal services model. Once we signed this memorandum, we did receive some funding to go towards various items such as marketing and recruitment of an operator. That does lead to the next step, we identified that we really wanted to have an operator on board, especially in these early stages, working with the technical committee. So we worked on an RFP. We started with an expression of interest, and then that led to a request for proposal. And this was posted in July for the expression of interest. And we awarded the contract to Clearford Waterworks in October. And we're really looking forward to be working with them as they have hands-on experience working with these types of systems. So it's really great to have them at the table with us, currently in a more offering advice and then potentially operating these systems in the future. We also continue to make updates to the shareholders agreement, and during this time, they also recruited their first admin support position, which is myself. So the first employee with the corporation. And then moving along to, as I mentioned, in October, we awarded our RFP for an operator. And then, as I mentioned, we did receive funding from the Eastern Ontario Regional Network. And part of that was identifying a brand. So we are working with Backcountry Design right now to complete a brand identity. So this essentially is looking at building, creating a logo, visual elements, and of course, building out our messaging. And this is currently aimed to be completed by the end of the year. We also identified the need for a CEO at this time. We worked on getting a job description together, and we feel that this is a crucial next step for the organization for its success and its strategic direction. So that position is actually currently posted right now. It was posted on November 18th and it closes on December 17th. And this is starting as a contract position for 2 years until we become operational. And then that leads to the next steps of what's next for us in the new year. As I mentioned, with the shareholders agreement, now that we've worked through this throughout the entire year, the next step is that we're going to be bringing it to our board for approval. And then it'll be brought to each township as each shareholder for review and approval as well. The CEO recruitment will be ongoing as well. Interviews will be in the early new year, and the goal is to have this position filled by February or March of next year. Marketing will also continue with the brand identity wrapping up. We'll continue into the next phase of marketing, which includes developing a website. As I mentioned, education is really important, so that will really serve as an educational platform for what we're doing. And then, of course, other marketing collateral as well. Now that we have an operator on board, we'll be continuing to work with Clearford, and they'll be working closely with our technical committee. So we're currently developing a work plan as we work towards developing these systems. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, the county amended their official plan to support the implementation of communal. And now the next step is for the townships to update their official plans, and Mr. Gallivan will be speaking to that next. And of course, continuing to work on streamlining the environmental approval process. That is all I have, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen. Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor.
So suppose a private developer wants to build a multi-unit residential in one of our villages, and the legislation is in place that would allow communal water supply and septic system. Why would that developer want the corporation to get involved rather than just building it and owning it himself?
I can take a stab at this one. Deputy Mayor, I think the idea with the Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation is one of the benefits is it eliminates the need for these larger developments, potentially larger developments, to require a municipal responsibility agreement. So developers can come to Frontenac or to your township build in more denser ways on communal servicing and not have to jump through the hoops of signing a municipal responsibility agreement. So that's very interesting to developers.
So that's the agreement that requires the developer to put up a bond or something equivalent to 100% of the value, or is that the way it works?
Essentially, so if a developer is coming in, and Joe can probably speak to this better, but I'll take a try. So if a developer's coming in and they want to build a number of units, and they want to build a communal services, that's great, but they're not only need to put up the money to put that system in, but they'd also have to sign a municipal responsibility agreement with the township, who then would say, to eliminate that risk, can you put up an additional, like doubling the cost essentially. So the Municipal Services Corporation is able to eliminate that need and take on that risk across the corporation.
So this not only reduces the amount of investment that a developer has required to put out upfront for extended period of time, it also reduces the lot size. And these figures will not be 100% right, but there's a development in Verona in South Frontenac. And under the old way of doing business, we could have put 5 or 6 units on it, and now they can put up to 130 or something like that. That is how effective this program is. And I also want to give out real shout out to the county, Joe Gallivan and Kevin and the rest of the staff. They're leaders in the province with this. They've been to numerous conferences, talking to people and so on, soliciting advice, soliciting input, providing advice, providing input. The money that we're getting from EORN develops all the, or will be used to develop all our templates and so on. And that will be shared. So we have a common platform, or as much as possible across the province. So this is really good. And we originally agreed to about $98,000 over 5 years. That's now down to about 87,000 because the population changes and sizes and so on. So that's all good. So it's really an exciting term, or exciting time. You know, if for example, if you have 4 acres here and you wanted to build houses on it, you'd be 2 houses, 2 acres for every house. Now you can maybe put it on 10. Depending what you want, depending the actual style. You get up to 12 or 14, then you have some questions. But that's it. So anybody else have comments? Sure.
What are you tied to with this relationship with Clearford? Does that mean that they will be the builder for the first one, or are you still open to other contractors?
So Clearford is just we're partnering with Clearford as an operator. So they're providing advice with their many years of experience in this space. They service these systems. They're working across Ontario on this type of thing, decentralized water and wastewater systems. So having their expertise at the table now and providing their input and direction will really help us through these next steps. So we're quite pleased to have them at the table.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. It's a long way. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Well done, Tyler.
Okay.
Moved by Councillor Regent, second by Councillor Good. Be resolved, the council receives for information the annual update from Tyler Lalonde, Administrative Coordinator with the Frontenac Municipal Services Corporation, and Kevin Farrell, CAO of the County of Frontenac. And thanks them for their time spent today.
Any final comments? In favor? Resolution is carried. Okay, we now have Joe Gallivan, Director of Planning and Economic Development for the County of Frontenac, joining us. And he's going to talk about communal services land use policies and the official plan amendment. Joe, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning, Mayor and members of council. Pleasure to be here. I'm really glad that I'm here right after you've had the presentation on the utility. It's a good segue for you to understand where the utility is today and why we're recommending you look at having a public meeting on our official plan. So the utility is 1 year in. They're working on best practices, and probably by this time next year, they will be ready to entertain an application from a developer. to build on communal services in Frontenac County. And as Mr. Farrell noted, the fact that the utility has now eliminated the need for a municipal responsibility agreement is one of the biggest game changers. Nowhere else in Ontario, no other jurisdiction in Ontario is entertaining that. So even in a large jurisdiction like the city of Kingston or the city of Ottawa, if you want to build on communal services in the countryside, you've got to put down 100% securities and you have to get approval by council. Now in Frontenac, because it will be assumed by the utility, the developer doesn't have to go to each individual municipality and say, can you please sign this agreement? And it is 100% securities, and that's where the business case collapses. So my experience in the research I've done, in many cases across Southern Ontario, the developer has come in with a really good planning proposal, but at the end of the day, when they're told they have to enter into this responsibility agreement, they walk away. So that's gone now. The other challenge we'll be dealing with in the next year is the very, very rigorous environmental approval process. We're working with the Ministry of the Environment now to look at for them to change and streamline that approvals process for us to really attract development in here. So that's why we are recommending that you look at amending your official plan. So as Mr. Lalonde said, about a year ago at the county level, we changed the plan to formally recognize communal services. We figured out how to do it. We support it. It's going to have a lot of benefits to rural sustainability and rural community building. And so the county plan basically plants the flag that says this is a good idea. But the county plan is also very clear that it is not to interfere with local planning issues. The township plan is your plan and your vision. So I'm now coming to different councils. I was at Central Frontenac in October, and I'm here today to ask you to consider having a public meeting to talk to your community about communal services. What does it mean to them? What kind of development do you envision? Where in North Frontenac would you like to see this? For example, do you want them in every village and hamlet in the municipality, or are there certain ones you think they would be a better fit? Do you want them on lakefronts to protect the environment? Because certainly they will have to do better in terms of lake water protection than a standard septic and well development. Do you want them on all lakes or just some lakes, depending on the scale? Do you want them in the rural areas, which can make a lot of sense because you've got beautiful rural landscape here in North. Right now, your plan is silent on this kind of development. A developer could come in here and say, I've got a 100-acre parcel. I want to build 300 homes. Probably not what you want to foresee. You want to have a certain scale that will fit into your community. So that's why I'm recommending you hold a public meeting and have that conversation. We'll help you with that to say, where do you want to see this in the future? Because it will be coming, sooner than later. And my argument as a planner has always been, if you don't figure out your own future, someone will do it for you. So that's what we're here today for, Mayor, and I'll take any questions at this time.
Are there any questions? Deputy Mayor.
What's an argument for not including all property in the township allowable for jurisdiction by this FMSC? It's, if you do that, you're not saying the FMSC has to own it. It's just an option. Is that right?
Through you, Mayor, that's correct. But as Mr. Farrell noted previously, if someone wants to build communal privately, they have to enter into that responsibility agreement. So the utility, and I've talked to some developers and they've said, you're telling me I can build, I'll pay for the infrastructure. I'll pay for the environmental studies. And then I turn the keys over to a utility. I never have to worry about managing the system. They think that's fantastic. So I suspect that very few developers will want to come to Frontenac and build on private, just strictly private development because of that reason. And in terms of your other point, Councillor Inglis, about should there be any areas in North that shouldn't have it? Well, that's the question for you to consider. And at what scale, what kind of density? For example, in the villages, do you want to see a certain type of housing? Would you allow apartments, small apartments, one-story apartments or something? That's a conversation you need to have with your citizens.
There's already zoning that defines that.
Yes, however, communal opens the door to a much higher density. The engineering is different and you can have a much higher density and it may be higher than you want. So you may want to put some wording in your plan that says, we're fine with this until it gets to this level. It doesn't mean you can't have more in the future, but it would trigger an amendment to your plan.
Counselor Fowler.
And I think, for the future, this is probably one of the best things that we can have. Our township has a small population and I would like to see it grow. And I don't think this is one way we can attract more people, and I appreciate what you are doing.
If you go back to the MVCA presentation at the beginning of the summer, Sally McIntyre was here and she's told us that it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when. That the cities are coming closer and closer to us. Like from Snow Road, it's an hour and 15 minutes to downtown Ottawa and less than that to downtown Kingston. That's drivable. I mean, it may be different for us because we live in the country, but if you're near an urban municipality and the land is that much cheaper and so on, that's the way you want to go. So someone theoretically could come in, especially the east side of the township, and say, I want to do this because I'm an hour and a half out of Ottawa or Kingston, and I want to build 50 houses or 40 houses. How do we want to handle this? Because they won't have to build 50 houses, would be 100 acres plus. You don't need that anymore. So, Deputy Mayor.
3 years ago, or maybe it was 4, we turned this proposal down, if you remember.
The utility, joining the utility.
We did, and the comments around the table at that time were, well, this is appropriate for South and the islands perhaps, but we're too remote, we're too small. So I just find it amazing that the attitude has changed so quickly about what's possible here.
Yeah. And to that point, if you look to the north of you, in the township of Greater Madawaska, you've got Calabogie. And that is, you don't have a ski hill here, but you've got amazing lakes here. You could have someone show up someday and say, I want to do something like that. Calabogie's on communal services. That's what potential is.
Councilor Regent.
So, Joe, the Economic Development Task Force has created a subcommittee for housing. There's a group of us that are talking about what that is and how we would deal with building maybe smaller, more affordable housing, not social housing, to be clear. So this would be an ideal partnership for something like this.
And I'm not sure if you've been following Central Frontenac. They had a delegation from Habitat for Humanity.
Yeah.
And Ms. Bolton and I have met with the president of Habitat for Humanity. They want to build somewhere in Frontenac.
Well, we
And that's ownership. That's home ownership. It's
We've
not.
reached out to them as well, so maybe we can collaborate.
Mr.
because
Gary Lees is the gentleman.
This is excellent information. I'm so pleased that you made this presentation.
Thank you.
It's given me some hope, to be quite honest.
Deputy Mayor.
Sorry to bother you again. I spoke with Gary Lees. They're just in the process of doing a new strat plan for Habitat. And I hope they're now aware that we in North Frontenac are very interested.
Good. And Mr. Lees was really surprised to learn about the work we've done collectively on communal services. And he think that gives them an opportunity to come into Frontenac and build out a density that they are looking at building that.
You could definitely communicate with our deputy mayor because he's on that subcommittee. John's on our subcommittee for housing. So that's that would be a great connection to begin with.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, so thank you, Joe. I really appreciate the work that you especially have done along with your team. And we'll see you in Glenbury.
It's all collaborative though.
I know you're being very kind, but you've been the lead on this and I like to pat you on the back.
Oh, thanks. And I'm not sure I have to talk to Corey and Terry about setting a date in the spring or something, if that's acceptable to council.
That's
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moved by Councilor Regent, second by Councilor Good. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Communal Services Land Use Policies Official Plan Amendment, and that an open house will be scheduled in early 2025 for residents to provide input and help determine where the township should support future development on communal services for future residential, commercial, and industrial uses.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Okay. We're on to delegations. Pat Storms and Tyler Wood.
Hello.
Morning. So we usually allow 10 minutes, but based on the last earlier this fall, we said we extended to 15 because there's both of you here.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, I'll read quickly.
all right.
Hey, as per Ontario.ca and our understanding, site plan control is an optional planning tool that a municipality may use to exercise specific controls over development and is not meant to control business decisions, ownership, use, sale and retention of real property, interior design of the buildings, and or the order and method of construction. Frontenac Shores, just a little history, is a redevelopment of an old cottage and trailer park built in the 1950s with antiquated services, mostly barrels in the ground with 1 or 2 tiles, located a few feet from the shoreline with no filtration or treatment, as still exists around this township in resorts that have been around for decades without improvement. Our business intent was to build a fractional ownership resort and to develop in phases, registering a new survey that clearly designated 4 separate parcels of land with the intent to sever and ultimately sell as a fractional resort or operate separately as traditional rentals. The owner doesn't matter to site plan control as long as servicing on each severed parcel can operate independently as advised continuously by the township planners to staff and us. We have invested over 5 million for development of the first 8 cottages, resulting in local contracting and jobs. $500,000 spent annually for operations, including supplies, maintenance, and employment, bringing 80 to 90% occupancy year round, heads and beds. Supporting local businesses all year. Over 85,000 annually to municipal, provincial, and federal taxes. I believe that to be significant for a mere 6 acres of land so far. That we've had to continuously fight the township to develop. It is as if the township actually is promoting the retention of antiquated and grandfather servicing and restricted seasons of operation by ensuring a costly and onerous process for improvement. Local businesses are shrinking by closing or shortening their seasons and hours, if you look around. This is not about anyone trying to circumvent the rules. We have always constructed expertly and within the rules and with an environmental conscience, which for anyone who has been to our development will clearly see. In 2009, a second severance application was approved to sever a parcel to add it to a separately owned Frontenac Shores. As always, there was 2 separate owners. The notice of decision had a condition requiring an amendment to the existing 2006 agreement for the movement of the septic area. It was known at the time that the proposed septic area was all on the remnant parcel. The amendment was done in February of 2010, resulting in a single site plan agreement under 2 separate owners and ended up replacing the 2006 agreement. In September of 2023, we put in an application for the building of Cottage 12 on our current site plan agreement, and it was denied, stating various reasons that didn't stand up to scrutiny. But by interpretation, an amendment would be required if the servicing for the severed parcel was on the remnant parcel. So the township demanded an amendment to the 2010 site plan agreement. To be clear, the township was asking for an amendment to move the septic area, amending the very amendment required from the 2009 notice of decision for severance that was supposed to deal with the exact same severance area movement under 2 owners at that time. I didn't get it. Schedule C of our 2010 agreement states, the owner covenants and agrees that it shall not begin the construction of any building, works, or services within Phase 3, the severed parcel, of its development and will not be entitled to receive a building permit for any building located within Phase 3 until it has submitted detailed plans and drawings satisfactory to the municipality for all of the works and services to be constructed within Phase 3. The owner further covenants and agree that upon the municipality approving the plans, the drawings for Phase 3, such plans and drawings shall be deemed to be site plan drawings for this purpose of this agreement, and all of the owner's obligations shall apply. It does not say that the newly designed septic should be contained on the retained parcel and an amendment would be required. Remember, at the time of the 2010 agreement, the 2009 severance had already been approved. Schedule C of the 2010 site plan agreement was the solution, in our opinion, by the township and its advisors for septic servicing at that time. That makes sense. What doesn't make sense is, according to the new interpretation, is that there was a gross error made by the township, its legal and planning advisors in 2010 and again in 2016 by ignoring the notice of decision conditions for septic and approving not only a site plan agreement that would have to deny 23 buildings on a site plan or require another amendment. I still believe, my opinion, is that planners and legal advisors back in 2010 and again in 2016 would not have been that negligent. The current issue finally ended after a full year and a half of our material all sitting on the ground, not being put into use, and then us getting exactly what we would have gotten in September of 2023. Nothing different. A travesty after spending 6 years and hundreds of thousands of dollars to get our agreement signed in 2010. Even after we agreed to do the township's bidding and get an amendment due to desperation, in January of 2024, a full year ago, we got the engineering done and paid for the amendment fee based on the suggested revised agreement that was presented to us in January of 2024, which changed drastically in March when we asked what the holdup was. It took a full year and cost us another tens of thousands of dollars to get back to what was originally presented in January of 2024. There's something wrong. What did the township get? All of the permit fees and benefits from our build, and everybody goes back to their daily routines of their jobs and their regular paychecks. And this is all swept under the rug at our cost. My question is, how is the township staff responsibility and accountability monitored and enforced? Tyler.
I'll make it quick. I agree that history is important for understanding, and history tends to repeat itself. These facts are important to make clear the repeated errors by staff in the past that continue with no accountability or recourse available except costly litigation and court system. In 2016-17, I spoke with the township staff and was verbally told that I did not require a permit according to the current bylaws to build a bunkie and an outhouse that were less than 108 square feet. I also was rebuilding an existing structure that I had. If a permit was required, then I would have reconsidered the size and scope of my building. New to development, I relied on the advice received from the township staff and completed the 3 buildings. Shortly thereafter, I was served with contravention letters stating that all 3 buildings must be removed following a complaint by a neighbor. I understood that the township staff could not compromise in any way from bylaws. But after researching the current zoning bylaw 5519, I discovered that conformance was adhered to the bylaw in effect at the time of construction, and the complaint was received prior to passing the new bylaw. However, the contravention letters were delayed until the new bylaw passed, therefore forcing me to repurpose as a marine shed, obtaining permits so that the 2 buildings did not have to be removed. I understood that the 3rd building was not in conformance, therefore had to be removed. However, the township denied a reasonable extension that would allow me to physically move the building to another property and it was already lined up for demolition by the township with only 30 days notice. To save the building, I got a proper demolition permit and converted to a vessel and launched into the lake. The township took me to Superior Court to have it removed from the lake, of which they had no jurisdiction. There were affidavits signed and allegations that were later proven to be misrepresentations of the truth or completely false. Ultimately, the township closed the file and wrote a check of settlement for thousands of dollars to me, plus their legal fees at taxpayers' expense. This township even tried to force a non-disclosure agreement on me, and I refused. Where is the accountability of the staff? What is the recourse for the taxpayers of this kind of costly situation? Now to the current situation. Prior to purchasing the property under a site plan control agreement in 2021, as part of my due diligence, I contacted the township staff and specifically asked if the agreement would be registered with the parcel I purchased and wanted confirmation that under the current site plan agreement, I could develop the property and construct the buildings as per the site plan. This was confirmed verbally with the township's legal advisor present and also in writing. The purchase of the legally separate property with a registered site plan agreement that I could begin developing was completed in June of 2021. Site plan control is not meant to control business decisions and or ownership and should only be concerned as per the Planning Act. With the list as described earlier, in the spirit of the first intent of this development, Southern Woods will be constructing year-round accommodations, bringing similar benefits to the township as described earlier from Frontenac Shores. And also similar is the continuous fight to do so. I have a registered site plan agreement providing the authority to build 12 cottages with a 20-meter setback from the lake. Instead of building all 12, I propose that it might be good to sever it into 3 properties and only retain 3 of the building locations plus one of the existing cabins as a bunkie. As an at-capacity lake, I thought the township would be thrilled. As with every suggestion, the township would not approve the locations of the cottages, demanding a further setback, and the existing cottage would have to be moved back as well. This was understood. Back to the drawing board. I decided to just continue with the current registered agreement on the property and asked what was required to begin building. The township staff actually told me that I would have to wait until the westerly portions owned by others were completely developed before I could even begin, and also would need to obtain an amendment to deal with the septic locations. In 2023, I had to step away due to the stress of illness and death of my father. However, in the meantime, the only thing that seemed I was able to do without a fight was to renovate the 2 existing cottages on the property. I began renovations on the first cottage and was informed I required a permit to do so. I applied for zoning clearance to get 2 renovation permits on 2 existing cottages, and several weeks later I was denied, according to the township that I had enlarged the cottage and now it did not qualify. This information was entirely based on an anonymous source from the township without inspection. Only after proving that this was false and threatening the township with legal action did they finally grant the zoning clearance permits. All of this unnecessary if proper attention was paid to and requested arbitrary roadblocks were not put up, simply to put up roadblocks with no solid rationale. Bottom line, all I want to do is to know that I can put in for a permit for a site plan approved building without having to fight roadblocks, such as waiting for 2 other property owners to complete their development, which could be years or never even happen, or amend the 2010 amendment for the exact same reason required as per the notice of decision for the severance. A simple administrative change to correct a single notation on a single drawing would allow the movement of a septic while maintaining all of the other prior approvals in place is not unreasonable. Is it not more reasonable to suggest that back in 2010, the planning staff, CAO, legal and planning advisors of the township that wrote the agreement all made gross errors and disregard the condition of the severance from the notation of the notice of decision in 2009, which was part of the reason for the amendment in the first place. Then again in 2016, when another severance was approved. You can't make this stuff up.
Thank you. If there are any councilors have any questions? Seeing none.
Moved by Councillor Hudel, second by Councillor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information the delegation from Dave and Pat Storms Development, and Tyler Wood, Southern Wood Incorporated, and thanks them for their time spent today.
All in favor?
Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Thank you,
Thank you.
Tyler.
Thanks.
Item 9A, minutes of the meeting, adoption of minutes.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, seconded by Councillor Hudel. Be resolved that council adopts the minutes of the following meetings as circulated. A public meeting regarding amendments to the zoning bylaw held November 22nd, 2024. A public meeting regarding amendments to the fee and charges bylaw held November 22nd, 2024. A regular meeting of council held November 22nd, 2024, and a special meeting regarding the 2025 proposed draft budget held November 29th, 2020.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Business arising, item 10A, resolution 35524, annual billing statement, package 2025.
Moved by Councillor Hudel, second by Councillor Hermer, whereas at the meeting on October 25th, 2024, council passed resolution 35524, receiving for information a letter dated October 4th, 2024, from the Municipal Policing Board with the 2025 annual billing statement package with an increase of $178,294, 21.39% over last year. The council requested the mayor send a letter to the Municipal Policing Board, Solicitor General, the Premier, MPP, John Jordan, and AMO, and all other municipalities. Now therefore be resolved, the council receives for information an email dated December 4th, 2024, from the CAO advising MVP John Jordan's office advised the township will be receiving funding in the amount of $147,480 to allocate towards the township's policing costs. And that as a result of this information, council rescinds resolution 35524, requesting the mayor provide a letter objecting to the large increase in policing costs as the issue has been resolved at this time.
Are there any comments? Councillor Fowler?
Yes, regarding the money that's going to make up the difference, is that going to be an annual amount of money? Because the building could be annual, the building itself could be an annual.
This is a one-time gift, you want to call it, from, of our money back to us from the province. And if you recall the budget session of the special budget meeting, we divided that over 2 years. To ease the tax burden in 2 years. Anything else? Okay, in favor? Carried. Next item is update to the MPOA request regarding Eurasian milfoil.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, second by Councillor Hudel, whereas at the meeting on October 25th, 2024, council passed resolution 35024, receiving for information a letter from the Mazenod Property Owners Association regarding government action to manage Eurasian water milfoil invasive species. And the council supported a meeting with representatives from the Township of North Frontenac and Addington Highlands, MPs, MPPs from both ridings, and senior level representatives from the Ministry of Natural Resources and Fishery, the Department of Oceans and Fisheries, and Mississippi Valley Conservation Authority to discuss the issue. Now therefore be resolved, the council receives for information an email dated December 5th, 2024 from Addington Highlands CAO clerk providing a letter from Councillor Ken Hook related to the MPOA request and the Eurasian milfoil issue, and advising Addington Highlands Council would like to explore the option of partnering on the installation of a boat washing station as part of an initiative to prevent the spread of the invasive species from lake to lake. And the council is interested in having further discussions and requests Addington Highlands to provide more information for consideration if the Township of Addington Highlands approves this initiative within their 2025 budget.
Comments? Corey?
So I just wanted to make you aware, and I know that back in 2016, the Scutamata District Ratepayers Association came to council requesting very similar. They wanted to put in a boat washing station, and I think it was maybe at our Baldheim and McCoy, or they talked about a couple different properties or potential, and council did say no at that time. So again, I'm not saying it needs to impact, but I just wanted you to be aware that we have had this brought forward, and the previous answer in 2016, Scutamata was at that time no.
Deputy Mayor?
So this is a little different. It's our neighboring township making the request, and a couple of waterfront locations were suggested. I think it's a good idea in general to try to cooperate with our neighbors. This doesn't commit us to anything, so I'm in favor of continuing talks about possibility.
Anybody else? Councilor Hudel?
So I'm just a little confused about this whole grant. So this micro grant is no longer available for this boat washing station. Is that correct?
No. From what I understand, they're asking for the township to apply for the micro grant, which I believe expires January 15th, correct?
Hang
The
on,
deadline?
hang on, I think you're getting it mixed up, Roy. The first part of the resolution that Tara read is just to talk to Addington Highlands, see if we should put a boat launch in. That's all,
Boat
sorry,
wash.
boat washing facility in, right? So that's all that is. The next section is the grant. Okay, so you can ask your question in about a minute. Okay? So we're just dealing with, do we want to have a further discussion with Addington Highlands about installing?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, all right, so resolutions on the floor, all in favor of that resolution? That's carried. Okay, Terry, you want to read the second part?
Moved by Counselor Hewell, second by Counselor Hermer. Whereas at the meeting on October 25th, 2024, Council passed Resolution 350-24, receiving for information a letter from the Mazenod Property Owners Association requesting council pursue the Ontario Protecting the Environment from Harmful Invasive Species Grant. The council deferred the request until after discussion with the Township of Addington Highlands and other representatives. Now therefore be resolved, the council receives for information an email dated December 5th, 2024 from the MPOA advising the grant funds have been released and the deadline for application is January 15th, 2025. An MPOA requests the Township of North Frontenac submit an application for grant funding.
Comments? No, Counselor Hoodle, please.
Ask your question again, right?
Sorry.
Okay, so this
My
grant,
meeting.
this grant funding is the micro grant they're talking about
Yes,
for the boat wash.
no,
What is it? Okay, so I'm confused. Explain to me.
this is for the treatment of the Eurasian milfoil. No? No. It says protecting the environment from harmful invasive species grant. The council deferred the request until after discussion with Township of Addington Highlands and other representatives. And to your point, my interpretation of this is that Mazenod property owners were going to apply for the grant and they just wanted us to support them. Now this says they're asking us to apply for the grant. Micro grant. What? Okay, which grant is this?
It says.
Corey, hang on, Corey.
Okay, so the Eurasian water milfoil stuff is not eligible for the funding. So what it is you get the second part, there's some pictures of signage, things like that could go at the boat launch, but it's more overall invasive species altogether. So it's not because Eurasian water milfoil is not a considered priority in the funding. They're asking now that we'll apply for the grant for the signage, things like that to put at the boat launches.
But it's not the boat wash because
It's
that's
not.
not allowed for the grant either.
Right. It's not permitted. So the boat.
That's what I
launch
just
is-
want to get, like, it was a little bit of confusing and for people who aren't part of this wouldn't understand.
Yes, that's correct. So the boat wash would be probably, discussions would be municipal funding for that is what my understanding is.
That's what it is. They're asking
Right.
us to pay that, split the difference,
Right.
50-50.
Yes.
Has nothing to do with the grant. The grant is only for educational purposes.
It's for this sign, it's more, the grants for, yeah, I don't know if you, it's, yeah, signage and stuff at the boat launches. And it's all about, it's just about, invasive species in general, not necessarily specifically Eurasian water milfoil.
So, I mean, I don't think there's any real capital layout. I can call FOCA, anybody can call FOCA and they'll send out those signs for free. So anyway, but that's a discussion we can have with Addington Highlands.
So Counselor Good.
What's this part here says ISC grant requires matching of 1-to-1. So we give $1, they give $1.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor. So you, when this happens, you apply for a grant. So if you want us if it's $3,000 you're applying for, you have to supply half that, so 1,500. So you can apply for a $3,000 project, but the municipality would have to provide the $1,500.
Just about to approve the budget. Here we go already, Okay. All right, so any other comments, questions, whatever?
So is anyone setting up a meeting time? Like is that, are you doing that, Corey, or?
So the the previous meeting, so Christine Reed, the CAO at Addington Highlands, has sent letters out to the ministries and the MPPs and MPs. So she's already taken care of all of that. She did that last week. So that's in the makings, and we've asked for January for the meeting. So I'm not sure how that's going with responses, but we'll see what happens.
Okay, so that's that meeting with the higher level government, but I thought Ken wanted a meeting just to talk about some other stuff. And
So we have until January the 15th, right? Do we have the time?
Yeah, the grant funding.
Corey, do we have staff time to do this? If we do it?
So I did speak with Brooke, and Brooke would look at, if you decide that you want to do this, Brooke will be the one writing the application.
That isn't the question. Does she have the time? Sorry.
Hard for me to answer that, but I would say so.
So this is just applying for the grant and it's matching dollars. So if we apply for 4,000, maximum grant is how much? 35. So it's $1,750. And we can put them on all of our lakes, right? And all of our shallow lakes.
Depends how much we can get out of $3,500 signage.
We've got like Mountain Lake and.
there's lots of lakes with issues,
I
but
know.
it's $3,500 grant divided by 2 twice. So it'll be half and then half again.
So it'd be 875. So this is an expenditure of 875 if we're successful on the grant.
And it's only for Mazenot Lake. Not for all the lakes.
Why wouldn't we do it to all the lakes?
Well, we haven't gotten that far yet. This is Mazenot Lake. Am I correct about that, Councillor Hoodle? This is their initiative.
So this is Mazenal Lake, but that's why I would suggest having a meeting. I'm not sure what the $3,500 is gonna get you that I couldn't get from FOCA.
Well, if it stayed with Mazenal, it'd be a Mazenal issue, but the minute it becomes a Township of North Frontenac issue, which it is now, or could be, then we have to cover all the lakes. And like Malcolm Lake was long ahead of Mazenal on this. So, we gotta be careful here what we're doing. I know it's not much money. Councillor Region.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but the point of this was Mazenot Lake. The point of the meeting, hopefully in the new year with the powers that be, is to discuss this problem with all the lakes. Like, this was just like, I think they feel like they're they're running out of time, right? So they wanted our help to deal with something for their lake as a first step. This isn't really relevant to this meeting we're going to have hopefully in the new year. This is just to get something going on that lake.
Councillor Good?
We only have the one boat launch on Mazenot Lake, so we can't, where we're gonna put a dozen signs up there on the one boat launch.
Yeah. And you get Shabamika in the area as well, and it's Cache and everything else, but those are deep water lakes. Corey?
Yeah, so when you look here at what they provided us, yeah, if you spent $3,500 on this stuff, that you wouldn't even be able to get your boat in the water because there'd be signs in the way. With this many, the sign's not expensive. We could never spend $3,500 worth of signage on one boat launch.
Councillor Region.
Why don't we apply for this? So, because we're going to miss out if we don't. And then I'm happy to reach out to Hillary and ask her for some clarifying information. But at least we can get the grant started.
Okay, but we're asking Addington Highlands to partner with us. So we're out 1,750 or 875. Corey.
I did watch the council meeting and I don't see where Addington Highlands approved even applying for this funding. So I know this is fairly confusing and we've relied on MPOA to give us this, but the only thing that I saw in the meeting was where they resolved to talk to us about the boat wash station. I don't see where they've approved applying for funding for the signage. So I think they're looking, and again, I could be wrong, but I did not see that on the meeting where that was approved for Addington Highlands to apply for. It came up, it was discussed, but there was no commitment that I saw from Addington Highlands for this grant money.
I saw the same. can get these signs from FOCA?
I mean, I order signs for Buckshot Lake from Boca. I don't pay anything, right?
But Hillary would know that. So I'm going to assume that she's maybe gone down that road, because why would she ask for this if she could get it for nothing from FOCA?
No, unless they're asking for something different, right? Like they may be asking for something slightly different.
That's what I'm saying. Maybe we apply for it just in case, and then we need to get some clarifying information from Hillary.
Deputy Mayor?
Well, the letter does say accompanying signage and preventative tools. I don't know what that means, but it's more than signs. For removing EWM from boats.
Well, I think it's one thing to sit down and talk to Addington Highlands about this. I think it's something else to applying for a grant that's essentially going to be focused on only one lake when we have other problem lakes that we have to worry about. So Corey.
I'm sorry, and this will be so I'm looking through their things here. So it is it's signage, it's water signs. So like hazard, keep it kind of marks where your milfoil is. Then down here, there's tools, aqua wheat stick, trailer mount, beat bags, boat brush. So there's actually tools here as well to go with the signage. So that helps actually as I continue to review here.
Yeah, so you're not gonna get this other stuff from FOCA. The signs, yeah, but these other water signs, no, you're not gonna get that.
So effectively, we are only looking at one lake. So if we do this, that sets a precedent for all the other lakes that decide they want to do this. Signs are one thing. And I know Mackinac marks their own location of the Eurasian Milfoil. Across the region.
There are other lake associations that are waiting to see what happens with this meeting with the MPPs and the MPs. They're all talking about it. They all realize they need to get involved. But so far, nobody has approached us the way that the MPOA has. So I'm not sure why we're hesitating to help when we throw money at other stuff.
And I kind of object to that. I really do. Okay,
So I think,
hang on,
sorry.
Councilor Fowler.
I thought they were looking for money to get some kind of chemical that would. No, okay.
You're beyond it, Frederick. That's 116,000. Roy?
I just wanted to say, I remember when the MPOA was here during the presentation, that was last year or something. And, you know, we said that we would support them in any way, but I don't know if we can support them financially, right? Applying for this grant does set precedence. It would be, there'll be other lakes that'll be coming to look for this, and where does it stop? We have 200-300 lakes in this area.
Well, both Stephanie and I were at the AGM for Medicine Property Owners Association, and Henry Hogg was there, and you weren't there, were you? No. And they were, talking about it, and Von Echo was there and said, we're going to be doing this, but we're supporting this, but by the end of the meeting, the guy from Von Echo realized he had a boss, and he kind of backed off and said he'd like to do this, but he had to get approval from his, from his higher ups and so on. So I personally don't want to set a precedent here.
So considering it's one of the bigger lakes in our community and there's a provincial park on it, and I would agree to it if we were partnering with Addington Highlands, so we say $850 and use it as a test, sort of see what's going on. It is a special type of lake because of the provincial park. But at the same time, I agree, Jerry,
Catch 22.
yeah, I would support it, but I see both sides.
Councilor Hermer?
Well, since it's a provincial park, perhaps the provincial government should cough up some dollars.
It's really, yeah, exactly. Deputy Mayor.
Well, haven't we already agreed to talk with Addington Highlands about a boat washing station, and that will require money? So we've all, we recommended that already. No?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did. We
Yeah, we
voted
just
on
did.
that. So we've already set a precedent. Spend money, one lake, On boat license. Well, we're talking, that implies that we will in the future be spending money.
Wayne?
Excuse me, that we've already set precedents with Malcolm Lake, for the, burlap and that. So it's already been set.
So. That was previous, so I didn't know that. Okay. Deputy Mayor?
I think the environmental issue is bigger than setting precedents and arguing over who gets what. I think we should deal with that problem when we see it, but here's an opportunity to spend a little bit of money and make a little bit of something happen. I don't think we should chicken out on this.
Anybody else? Okay. Tara, do you want to read that last resolution once again, and then we'll vote on it?
The resolution has no direction. It really is just receiving, the request from MPOA. And if you want any action, it would have to be added to the resolution. So resolution reads, now therefore be it resolved that council receives for information an email dated December 5th, 2024 from the MPOA advising the grant funds have been released and the deadline for application is January 15th. And the MPOA requests the Township of North Frontenac submit an application for grant funding.
Okay. All right. Councilor Region.
They do want an answer as to whether or not we're gonna have Brooke do this. Correct? That's what we're voting on?
No, you're voting on it, we're just basically receiving for information at this point, eh?
It says request the
Crest
Township of North Frontenac
Submit an
submit.
application. Yeah, sorry, my apologies. Yes.
So is this a shared application or this is gonna be just, so Addington Highland may not do this?
That's, so all of a sudden we're at the 1750. Not a big issue here. Corey?
I think the application would just be for the 3,500 and then it would be the township will pay the half of the 3,500. Yeah, that's right.
So, and essentially that's one way. Okay. Motion on the table.
We have a recorded vote, please.
Councilor Good, and then
Just reading this here, and it's from Hillary Duncourt there. It says, I'm emailing to confirm Fran's reply to your question. The ISC grant coordinator recommends pursuing the $3,500 micro grant for invasive species prevention. So they're recommending that. Yeah, you do go ahead with that. So, okay.
So we have a precedent before, Malcolm Way. So if you want to amend it, that was the time, right? But they're only asking us, hang on, they're already asking us, do we need to amend this? We don't. They're asking us to apply for the grant. And which means if we get it, then we're out $1,750 unless Addington Highland kicks in half of the $1,750.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
If you read on down further, it says improve signage at the municipality owned boat launches. Plural.
Yeah, I'm in favor of that.
It's on here further, but which is on. The Bonacco Park has already put it in there. Regulated water areas.
They have a big patch right out in front of the park.
Yeah.
All right, so folks, if we vote yes, we apply for the grant. If we vote no, we turn it down and don't apply for the grant.
Yeah, could we have a recorded vote, please?
I'm just gonna amend the motion to include applying for the grant, and then you guys can vote on.
That's the very last line. And Preston Township, North Frontenac submit an application.
Just while she's writing that, can I ask a question? Why is Addington Highlands not applying for this separately from us and then they get double the amount?
The issue here is January 15th. It'd be nice to defer this to the next meeting, which is January 10th. But, that leaves, then you get 11th and 12th for Thursday, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. I'm a little concerned we have enough time to do this now.
Correct. Kelly, if council approves this, the reserve fund for the 1750, or what do you suggest?
I guess I would suggest just from the contingency reserve.
Well, personally, I'd like to see the province get more involved in this and take it more seriously.
That's one of the ideas of having everybody together, because it's their water, but this is doing what we can do without getting into the water. Should we amend that that application or that resolution to saying that we asked Addington Highlands if they're successful, to make 50% of, I'm not sure. Why not? Deputy Mayor.
I disagree with that. As you say, the money's not important. It's the principle. And, just getting Addington, putting a phrase in there about asking Addington Highlands do something is trivial. I don't think it matters. I think we should leave it out.
What's your wishes, folks?
So the amendment reads, and that council instructs the manager of community development to work with the MPOA and apply for the $3,500 micro grant for invasive species prevention measures with the township's portion of $1,750 coming from the contingency reserve fund.
That's our motion. Nothing with Addington Highlands in there, but considering we've set a precedent and Councilor Regent wants a recorded vote.
Councilor Fowler,
Yes.
Councilor Good, Councilor Hermer,
Yes.
Councilor Hudel,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ingles.
Yes.
Councilor Regent,
Yes.
Mayor Lickey.
Yes.
The motion is carried 7-0.
My choice. I know. Yeah, she wanted it, so. Okay. All right, item C, 2025 budget updates.
Moved by Councilor Hermer, seconded by Councilor Hudel. Whereas at the special meeting on November 29th, 2024, council passed resolution 42524, approving in principle the 2025 draft budget with a levy increase of $327,376, being a 4.55% increase. Now therefore be resolved, the council receives for information the 2025 final budget document, including the amendments as directed by council at the special meeting on November 29th, 2024, and that council will consider a bylaw to adopt the 2025 budget later in the meeting.
Okay. Does anybody have any issues with the budget that we approved 2 weeks ago? Deputy Mayor.
I would like to revisit the issue of the balance in the contingency reserve. As the treasurer correctly pointed out, if we tried to use some of that money that's in the balance for an operating item, we'd have to tax for it next year. But we have an opportunity to hire a student at $20,000. That's a 1-year commitment. There's $129,000 over the minimum target level in that account right now. I would argue that we should spend $20,000 of that, reducing the balance in that account, not planning to tax for it next year, and assessing the value of a summer student in economic development help, and applying for a grant in the process for doing it in 2026.
Would you be willing to extend that so that we could apply for a grant in 2025? That the grant money, if we were lucky, and typically we are not, but if we were, that money would go back into that reserve fund?
I don't feel that's necessary. So that would replace the balance, and we would have no help in 2026 in that role.
I thought the idea was, I don't know where it came from, was we take $20,000 out. We use it to hire a student for 1 year to help with their economic development staff. And it'd be a 1-year pilot, the end of the 1 year, and we would apply for this student grant from the government, which is about $5,000, I think. And if we're lucky, and I said typically we are not, as I understand it, but if we were, that $5,000 would go back into the reserve, which would result in us only taking out $15,000. That's right. Okay. So that's would not be part of the budget, but it'd be part of our operating. How would that work, Kelly? We don't want it taxable. It's just a 1-year thing.
Yeah, so you would pass a resolution that we would incorporate that into the budget. It does not change the tax rate calculation, so it doesn't change the budget bylaw later in the meeting.
No.
No, we
Because
would
it's
just make a note.
50,000 in, 50,000 out,
We just
or
update it.
20,000 in, 20,000 out, and if we're lucky, we get 5. Counselor Good.
I thought we already had this finalized on their last meeting there, and now the ETF, they're asking for more money again for a student, and I thought we already had that discussed that we didn't need a student in there.
The vote last time was 4-3. Okay, I think it's we spent some time on this one, and we did discuss it, but we haven't, we're still in the draft phase. After today, we'll have finalized the budget, hopefully. So there's several items should come back up, and this is one of them. So here's an opportunity without touching the tax levy to use money that we have obviously more than our minimum required or suggested minimum as a one-time deal. Wayne?
Just because money is there, doesn't mean it's gotta be spent.
I know.
Like, you don't do this with your own personal place, so why would you do it now? And you're asking to put this in on this resolution? Maybe we should take a tally before, because you don't include that part in this resolution that we're working on.
This is a separate resolution. It's not part of the budget.
It'll be separately voted on.
It would, well, we can do that, and we have to do that. Okay, but Tara has to finish the resolution first, and then we'll vote on it, and we'll see what, if we think that's a good idea, and if we do, then we hire the student 1 year, 20,000 comes out of the contingency reserve. We apply for a grant, we get the money, the 5,000, wherever it is, goes back into that reserve. We've only depleted it by 15,000, and then we can reconsider it again for next year.
The idea is, so you say only taking 15,000, it's still taxpayers' money, any way you look at it.
Yes. Wait, or sorry, Bert.
How many weeks of employment will this student receive?
16, 15? It's 20,000.
Approximately 16 or 17 weeks.
That's a
May
university.
till September.
Yeah, we're
April,
talking
May till
university.
September.
Boy, he's making good money.
Yeah, no shade. Yep. You gotta think about pension and everything else and whatever's all in it. Kelly?
The 20,000 does include, WSIB and CPP and all EI and all of the deductions. Does.
Does, yeah.
That includes all of the deductions
did-
that are required for,
I did the same calculation Vern's doing in his head right now. I'm
Yeah.
going like,
for sure.
It's not an 8-week, it's a 16-week. Whatever. That's what I understood that in the fall, manager of economic development reports back to council and discuss the results of the panel. You know, you go to a theater and they say, if you have a candy bar wrapper or candy, bar, that was a good time to unwrap it before it starts, eh? Vern, you want to say something? You look like you're right on the edge. Where to vote for this? Okay. He's still writing the resolution here. $5.69. No, I think the fine. Is the world going any whether you like it or not? You're probably down the road. Yeah, I know.
Moved by Councillor Hewell, second by Deputy Mayor Ingles. Be resolved, the council approves hiring an economic development student for 2025. And the council instructs the treasurer to incorporate the cost into the 2025 budget with the cost coming from the contingency reserve fund. The council instructs the MCD to apply for student funding, and that the manager of community development shall report to council in the fall of 2025 on the position.
So Brooke, that would be the FedDev grant for students that just opened?
So it's the Canada Summer Jobs is the one, but there is another one that
Yeah.
opened as well. So there could be a couple opportunities. I'll look into them.
Awesome.
So the amendment reads, And if the funding is successful, the grant money is placed in the contingency reserve fund. Recorded. Counselor Fowler,
Yes.
Counselor Good, Counselor Hermer,
No.
Counselor Hudel,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Ingles.
Yes.
Counselor Regent,
Yes.
Mayor Lickby. Motion is carried 4-3, 5-3, 5-2, sorry, 5-2.
Comment. There was quite concern about $1,750, and yet there was no problem with 20,000.
Noted. Okay, so I have another issue. I have two other issues. Well, the next one is Summerfest at $10,000. That may be what we all agree to, but that went through with nobody saying anything. And we had $6,000 last year. What's the other 4,000 for? Were we short last year? What are we gonna do with the four? Is there a business plan? That sort of thing. We have some background information. Say we have to add 4,000. So that's the economic development. I'm looking at John, looking at Stephanie.
So I actually think I brought this up. I'm not sure what the budget came to, Brooke, this year, but we decided at the committee that we wanted to bring it to the next level and like raise the bar of the Summerfest. And to do that, we need more money. So that's where the justification comes from. John, I don't know if you have another comment.
Well, I recall that the budget request for last year was 10,000. Got less, and so we did less. So there certainly will be an expansion of events, but nothing that we haven't already thought about, planned for in the past.
So Brooke, Councilor Hill asked you a question. Do you know how much our total cost was for 24? Was it over the 6 or was it close to the 6? Was it?
So I don't have an exact number for you. We were over budget last year because it was a slight double booking situation. So I think, yeah, what John has said about expanding, making Summerfest bigger, better, more venues. That's the thought of the house.
Okay. I just asked the question. I just wanted to know because no one had anything to say about it. Councilor Good.
Thank you for bringing that up. I forgot all about that. I was reading it through the budget and I see it in there again, but yeah, I think it should be left to $6,000 too as well. I just can't see all the taxpayers paying for a few people to have fun. Maybe they should be charging more entry fees or something to this Summerfest instead of putting it all back on the taxpayers.
I don't think it was a few people, Brooke. I know we have a number. It was a few hundred, 700 people. It's not a few people.
Well, to me, that's still a few people. It's not half the population.
Yeah.
That's an incredible number for North Frontenac to get 700 people to come out for a day event. If you talk to anybody there, it's just a blast. Maybe you should come out, Wayne. You'd have a good time.
At one point, I was sitting in a lawn chair with somebody. I had a beer in my hand. It was really nice. Getting out of the lawn chair was really difficult though. Anyway, does anybody else have anything to want to say about this? I just brought it up to say, does anybody have any concerns? But we've heard one. So nobody else has anything, then we'll just leave it at the 10. The last one is, we spent, Deputy Mayor, do you have something? No. Okay. The reserve for the tangible capital assets, the roads and the bridges, we agreed on 2%. Last year, we said we put 35,000 away, and then we were going to put 70,000 away for 10 years, which would be about $750,000. And that would have taken us to 2035. This year, we're looking at 2%, and that will take us somewhere. We're looking at 700,000. We're going to hit that within about 4 years. But when we're talking 700,000 extra last year, now it's $1 million. extra by the year 2028. All I'm asking is it more reasonable? We'd still be less than 2035. We'd be in the 2029, 2030 range if we drop that 2% back to 1.5%. Because looking long-term, next year when we do this budget, we have the extra OPP billing. I guess we can offset some, but there's still the extra cost there. We'll have staffing increases, general increases, and we're going to have 2% just for this alone. So before you even start, you're at over 4. And maybe that's just the way it is. But all I'm saying is it reasonable to drop this back to 1.5%? Councillor Herber, then Deputy Mayor.
I agree with you on that. I agree with what you said, Jerry. If we find after a year, next year's budget, we can readjust it if we have to.
Deputy Mayor?
So what's written in here now with this current tax, this current levy increase is a 2% bump in the allocation to the tangible capital assets. Is that correct? Right. And that gets us to some target before the 10-year end of the current asset management plan. It gets us to, in other words, it gets us to a healthy position in less than 10 years.
If we stay where we are by 2031, we'll have 1.1 million plus or minus 10 or 20,000. If we drop back to 1%, we won't hit that 1.1 million to 2033. We're still ahead of where we were going to be last year. And, you know, I looked at putting in 1.5% this year and 2% from then on, and we'd hit the 1.1 million in 2031. So at 1.5%, we're going to be somewhere around 2031, 2032. Somewhere in that. We're going to be 1 or 2 years longer, but the asset plan, work plan is based on perfect world. Wayne?
You just said the last part there, this isn't a perfect world and we don't know what this gonna happen between now and then. We can't read those things. So if we keep preparing for it ahead of time, instead of waiting, like proactive is a lot better than reactive at any given time. So don't think we should drop it back to 1.5. I think it should leave it at 2. Because if you don't, when something major happens, or we gotta spend another $1 million on a bridge or culvert that's unforeseen, we don't know what the weather's coming, any of that stuff. So I think we should be leaving it at 2%. And don't be reactive, be proactive.
Okay. Deputy Mayor?
In this case, I agree with Wayne.
Case.
It's
Christmas, I know what's coming.
No, we're putting this money aside. It's not spent, it's being put aside, it's earning interest. If we don't run into nasty surprises in the next, well, we won't be here in 5 years, but the next council will have more to play with and can reduce taxes.
Councillor Hoodle?
Yeah, I agree with Council Good too. I think it's important that we do this.
Okay. Councillor Hermer, you have an opinion?
Well, I expressed it, but I guess I can't really disagree with the 2%, but it looks a little bit neater for the taxpayer if it's 1.5, but
4.55 is not really bad. I want to make sure that everybody understands what we're doing. Because next year, when we sit down to do this, or the year after, it won't be the year after, but next year, we'll still, or in our mandate, we're going to be starting here as opposed to here. Okay, so we can always cut it back. I agree. But we have to be aware of what we are going to, what we have agreed to. Councillor Fowler, how do you feel about this?
I think we have to be careful with our taxpayers' money. They expect that.
They do. And your answer would be 1.5 or 2. 1.5 or 2. Councillor Regent, the only one who hasn't expressed an opinion on this.
I don't have a problem with the 2%.
Okay, 2% stays. As long as everybody understands, I just brought it up because I want to make sure everybody understands. Okay, that's it. So now we can go on past the resolution. And we won't need lunch. Kelly?
But I just wanted to just take 2 seconds. I did say that if I was able to get all the information from the county and calculate it out, just to make you aware of the impact actually to the ratepayer. So we always do a breakdown based on 100,000 of residential assessment. So the impact is actually 2.87% when you take in the county and education. So based on 100,000 assessment, they're going to see an increase of 32.29 or 2.87% is the impact on that.
So if you have an $800,000 house, looking at.
So on a $750,000 house, it'd be about $242 or about $20 a month.
And then we have a healthy reserve. Okay. Anything else? Or we let Tara read the resolution?
We have to keep healthy reserves.
Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you. I just, we originally said 2035, now we're in 2031. If we're at 2032, is it a big deal? I just wanted to make sure everybody's happy, we're good. Yeah.
Therefore, be resolved that council receives for information the 2025 final budget document, including the amendments as directed by council at the special meeting on November 29, 2024. And the council will consider a bylaw to adopt the 2025 budget later in the meeting.
All in favor? That motion's carried. Okay, communications section A. We okay, John? Yeah. Oh,
Moved by Counselor Hill, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved that council receives for information section A items of the clerk's administrative report entitled Communications of Interest.
in favor? Carried. We have no communications B items this time. Administrative reports, we have to go through and appoint a deputy mayor. I'd like to thank Deputy Mayor, currently Deputy Mayor, Ingalls for his time, throughout the past year. So who wants to be deputy mayor? Process is, you can nominate yourself, you can nominate somebody else. Councilor Fowler,
My name,
okay? Councilor Hoodle,
I nominate Deputy Mayor Ingles.
anybody else?
Yep.
Councilor
Sorry.
Good, then Councilor Regent.
I beat you. I agree with Councilor Hurley. I'll second that for John.
Or I'm not voting, I just want you to nominate somebody else.
No,
Okay.
Ingles, even though I disagreed with him at one meeting there.
Have to get you gold something or other, I don't know what. Councilor Regent.
I'd also like to put John's name forward.
Okay. All right, so all in favor of Councilor Fowler? Okay, all in favor of Councilor Ingalls? Councilor Ingalls is the deputy mayor for 2025. And we might have to work a little harder this year because of the warden thing. First meeting is January the 9th for us. And that's the only conflict that I can find between council at our council meetings and the council at the county and the warden's meetings. So there you go. But I have to also say, when there were some times, like I was in the hospital in my bed, flat my back, and I'm texting Gary Caldwell and telling him to talk to you about doing the dedication on a Saturday night. You were there, so I was happy with that. So thank you. Okay,
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Hudel. Be resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Appointment of Deputy Mayor. And the council receives for information the presentations from Counselor Fowler and Counselor Ingalls. And the council appoints John Ingalls as the deputy mayor for a one-year term. And the council will consider an appointing bylaw later in the meeting.
in favor? Gary. Deputy Mayor, would you like to say something?
Well, I did have a prepared list of points, but I don't think I need to. All I want to say is thank you very much. Anybody has any comments about how the office should be conducted, please let me know.
You know, I might have to rethink that vote. Okay, item 12B, Shore Road Allowance Application for Approval in Principle, Camp.
Moved by Counselor Hewell, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Shore Road Allowance Application for Approval in Principal Camp. And the council approves in principle the application to close, stop up and sell the Shore Road Allowance as described as part of the Shore Road Allowance lying adjacent to part of Lot 9, Southwest Range, Geographic Township of Clarendon, Big Gull Lake.
Comments? Questions? In favor? Carried. Item C, concession road allowance closure, Sandy and Willis.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Hudel. Be it resolved the council receives for information the clerk planning manager's administrative report entitled Concession Road Allowance Closure, Pisani Willis. The council denies the application to close up and sell a portion of the concession road allowance between concessions 6 and 7 in Lot 38, Geographic Township of Clarendon. And the council instructs the clerk to advise the applicant of the denial of the application.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Public Works Manager, Darwin, proposed speed limit reductions in Road 519 and Myers Cave Road.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Public Works Manager's administrative report entitled Proposed Speed Limit Reductions on Road 509 and Myers Cave Road. And the council approves the speed limit reductions and limits proposed on Road 509 and Myers Cave Road by the Public Works Manager, and the requests to amend posted speed limits were previously administered by the Public Works Manager and/or CAO through the township's complaint policy based on previous direction from council. However, it is recommended that as we receive so few of these requests, that Resolution 29021 be rescinded to direct the Public Works Manager to bring future requests for changes to speed limits on North Frontenac-owned roads to council for consideration moving forward. And the council will consider an updated bylaw later in the meeting.
In favor? Sorry, any comments first? In favor? Carried. 2025 WSIB rates for fire volunteers.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that the Township of North Frontenac receives the Treasurer's Administrative Report entitled 2025 WSIB rate for fire volunteers for information purposes. And the Council of the Township of North Frontenac set Workplace Safety and Insurance Board at the maximum coverage for 2025 being $117,000 for volunteer firefighter personnel in wards 2 and 3, and that the maximum number of members of the brigade shall not exceed 30 members per station, plus the Director of Emergency Services, Fire Chief, and Assistant Fire Chief.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Waiver of penalty and interest for supplemental billings issued after November 10th, 2024 due to the Canada Postal Strike.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, seconded by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the Treasurer's Administrative Report entitled Waiver of Penalty and Interest for Supplemental Billings issued after November 10th, 2024 due to the Canada Post Strike. The council approves waiving any penalty and interest on outstanding supplemental tax billings issued after November 10th until 45 days after the end of the Canada Post Strike.
Comments? In favor? Carried. External committees, Committee of Adjustment, Planning Advisory Committee.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the minutes of the Committee of Adjustment Planning Advisory Committee dated September 23rd, 2024.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Economic Development Task Force.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council receives for information the notes of the Economic Development Task Force dated November 18th, 2024.
Comments? In favor? Carried. Environmental Task Force.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be it resolved that council receives for information the notes of the Environmental Task Force dated November 26th, 2024.
Any comments? In favor? Carried. Anyone wish to give notice of motion? Seeing none, and we have no motions on the table. Council portfolios, verbal reports. Okay, so my section was county business. The life of a county warden is a little busier than the life of township mayor. That's all well and good. It's been really interesting so far. On Monday, we will be having an official reception for the RED grant, which is the Rural Economic Development Grant that the county received. $250,000, and we use that grant to build the next section of the KMP Trail from Clare Mill Station up to the Clarendon Station rather, up to the Mississippi River Bridge at the south end of Snow Road. So MPP is there and the MPs are there. I'm there. I believe Corey is there, and you're unable to make it. Brooke, if she can be, will be there representing Corey. You're not invited.
I will be invited.
Well, not by me, so I didn't set the invitation, so, but anyway. So, it is what it is, and, that's pretty much it. No meeting with the Lake Association Alliance, okay? Wayne? Nothing to report. Stephanie?
The Lakelands Family Health Team board meeting got moved to January 6th. I have no information from Land O'Lakes Community Services yet. Maybe there'll be something from their next meeting. And our next OPP Services Board meeting is December 19th.
Go ahead. Councilor Hoodle.
We had an MVCA board meeting on December 9th, just this past Monday. Just some quick updates. The Farm Lake Dam assessment was completed. I was told that it has 10 to 20 years left in its lifespan. The Cataraqaback Lake Dam EA project is now at a milestone, so there's a 30-day review, so that was completed. So I have 30 days for comments. Yes, thank you. We approved the staff salary review that was done. As far as the lakes go, they're at their normal levels for this time of year. And we approved the budget for the next year.
Really? So are they looking at rebuilding Cache Lake Dam in 26?
I believe 26 or 27. I can't remember the last date they gave us, but they're gonna, once this EA process is complete, then they can go into the design stage.
Okay, perfect. Councilor Hermer?
Nothing to report.
Councilor Fowler?
Yes, we had an EOTA meeting yesterday. During that meeting, we saw a little clip of the Ontario Parliament where Steve Clark had introduced a one-pass system for ATVs. It will be tabled in March, so the one-pass system for the ATVs is coming.
March 25th, Fred.
Pardon?
March 25th.
Also, the OTA is sponsoring Rockin' the Trails. This is just the information. I've got some cards to put out on the rack out there. It'll be on June 21st, 2025 at the Tweed Fairgrounds. And this is sponsored by the EOTA. And that's all I have now.
Deputy Mayor?
Nothing to report on Ward 3 Lakes.
Okay. So, bylaws to be considered.
Moved by Councillor Hermer, second by Councillor Fowler, be resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce the following bylaws that have been circulated to all members of council. Bylaw 2024-77 to appoint the deputy mayor, 2024-78 speed limit bylaw, bylaw 79 final tax rate, and these bylaws be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Any final comments? In favor? Resolution's carried. Public forum, okay, anybody online, Kelly? Okay, confirmatory bylaw? I already got a hand or head shake. I'm ahead of you, Vern, surprisingly, eh? Okay, so, confirmatory bylaw, here.
Moved by Counselor Fowler, second by Counselor Hermer. Be resolved that bylaw 2024-80 being a bylaw to confirm all actions and proceedings of council for its regular meeting held December 13th, 2024, be read a first, second, and third time and finally passed.
Final comments? In favor? Carried. Okay, so this is our last meeting in 2024. Christmas is coming. Each of you take the time, enjoy yourself, enjoy your families, enjoy your friends. Be safe. Okay. Adjournment.
Moved by Counselor Hermer, second by Counselor Fowler. Be it resolved that council adjourns the meeting at 11:49 a.m. until January 10th, 2025, or at the call of the chair.
In favor? Carried. Meeting is adjourned.